A Witch's Tale, The Rising, Chapter 2. It felt and appeared that Ariel J was stalling. Inside her own private cave, deep within the waterfall, far away from prying eyes, she went over and over again in her mind all that she might need to embark on a journey to the very center of the earth. Over and over, she found gaps in her reasoning, and, out of spite and pride, did not wish to ask for Magnus' assistance. After all, it had been the rock spirit's insistence that had gotten her into this mess in the first place. Ariel J was a witch, and as such, when she'd made up her mind, the world might as well follow along with whatever she'd decided. Her abode had been carefully decorated by herself to resemble the home she'd lived in long ago. There was even a fireplace that burned etheric fire and radiated warmth. Living in Iceland, it wasn't the kind of thing that was hard to come by. There, she'd befriended more than just rock spirits, but also beings of fire, of water, trees even, nature's secrets which she always kept close to heart. Never had she felt in need of anything having them close. She was seated on an old-looking couch that had been covered with soft wool she'd woven herself, and a book called A Witch's Guide to Potions next to her over a square table. Her hands worked quickly, knitting a cloak that had all the colors of the rainbow. It was for the journey. It was also a meditation. She listened to the long echoes of the silence that emanated from deep down. There was a ring of a bell. Someone was at the door. She got up, placing the knitting work over the table, and opened the sleek, dark wooden door on which a sign read, Bene Advenisti. 3 light brown, short, round, hairy creatures were at the door. They were so furry, one could only see their large eyes, a smiling mouth, a hint of a nose, and thin legs that ended with bigger than usual feet. Earth creatures coming to inquire on the veracity of the recent developments. Milo, Rax, and Poxy at my doorstep. Welcome, friends. Ariel J welcomed them, showing them inside. As you can see, I'm rather busy. AJ, Milo, the taller one, breathed. Is it true that you're leaving us? There were tears in his eyes. Ariel J took his face in her gentle hands, coming to kneel before the 3 of them. I have received a calling, my friends. I shall travel to the center of the earth to see for myself. Only then shall I know for sure. If it came from Magnus, then it's true, Poxy said sadly. You have been called. Be calm, my friends. Not everything Magnus says is true. The 3 of them came to stare at each other doubtfully, clearly not sharing the same opinion. It seemed that the rock was held highly in their regard. Ariel Jane resumed her knitting while her friends sat by the fireplace. They whispered incessantly to one another. It was beginning, just beginning to get on her nerves. Words like dangerous, perilous, alone were uttered more than once. The young witch of the past wondered where she would invite them to leave. But they were friends, so she just put up with it until another ring of the bell announced someone else was at her doorstep. She sighed, feeling slightly discouraged, this time wondering who it could be now. The door opened with a squeaking sound, the golden luminosity of the dwelling illuminating the face of a bearded man with hair that surpassed his shoulders in length. It cast shadows on the rocks around him. His green traveling cloak matched his light green eyes, and the slight silvery of the mustache and beard denoted he lived somewhat. Merlin, she cried in utter shock. Her knees buckled in respect. Please get up, the man told her kindly. Ariel J had never seen him in her lifetime, but the emanation coming from him left no doubt as to who he was. "I see you have company." "Yes," she told him respectfully, and began to introduce each one of the earthlings, who then began muttering words like "saved," "Merlin," and "timely" in their sentences as though no one could hear them. The man simply smiled, and as he did, his eyes wrinkled in a charming way. His skin was tanned as one of a traveler, and he radiated patience. "It has been a long time since I have traveled this far," the man said. "This frozen abode, do you like it? Its beauty is somewhat cutting and merciless. I should say I have been a fool to have taken this long to come and pay you a visit." "Dear Merlin, it is I who should be grateful that you have decided to visit these lands. My name is Ariel J, and I have lived here happily. Well, until recently anyway." "Ah, we'll get to that," he assured her, taking a seat on a couch opposite from hers after having hung up his traveling cloak. By then, Ariel J started the boiling kettle, as welcome potions were her specialty. "My name is Henry, and yes, I am Merlin. One of them at least. There are several of us, keepers, guardians, guides. Merlin would suffice, as Henry was a persona I enacted. Times have changed, and we change along with it." A thick brown potion that steamed and released a delicious fragrance was poured in a silver cup, then offered, not only to the Merlin, but to all the guests. "Ah, this is indeed a good welcoming potion," Merlin exclaimed, closing his eyes to feel it more keenly. Milo, Rax, and Poxy were silent now, something much appreciated at that point, as they savored the witch's craft. Ariel J, her heart in equal amounts of joy and apprehension, noticed her thoughts racing. Her mother used to say that when the Merlin comes to town, one must watch one's thoughts. Well, hers were like wild galloping horses. They threatened to weaken her resolve and to make her stall even further. Whatever business had brought Merlin to Iceland and to her home, it surely had nothing to do with her. She was nothing but a witch of old, one that hadn't moved on, one who now lived with the earthlings, the fairies, the rocks. She had no business, none at all, with the great Merlin, no matter how many there were. "We lead simple lives here," she told him, pointing around. "Witchcraft was in our bloodline until we fell, but I haven't abandoned it, as you can see. It's wonderful what you've done with the place. I feel I'm living again that time in which magic ran so free. Times are not as such now, dear one." As Merlin spoke these words, his semblance looked troubled. Woes of the past are still the woes of the present, only in different forms. Sometimes I come to walk beside the ones that walk the surface of the earth today, and I see, although I can hardly believe my eyes and ears at times, that is true, she admitted, shaking her head side to side. "When a friend told me of good tidings, I refused to believe him. I must see with my own eyes. You see this cloak with all the colors of the rainbow I'm making?" He nodded. "It's for my intimate encounter with the Great Mother." "So you'll be traveling shortly?" he asked. "Yes," she nodded. "May I be of assistance?" he then asked. "The roots to the core have long been dampened by energy vampires and lost souls. It could be dangerous going all alone." By then, the three earthlings' friends that had sat smugly on the carpet between them, sipping their potion with great diligence, opened their eyes wide in expectation. It looked as though they were about to do the merry dance any time soon, as long as she accepted Merlin's help. "I hate to waste one's time," she said. "Whatever they're calling me for, They might have picked the wrong person. My entire lineage has moved on, except I. Accept my help, and I'll show you why. But first things first, Merlin said, standing up. The whole power of his presence then spoke. His eyes turned blank, and his hands began to shine as he took a milky white crystal ball from his left shirt pocket. It glowed with the colors of the rainbow. A priestess doesn't sway from her path. Ariel J and the Earthlings all kneeled before this glowing light. Her entire humble abode was inundated by it. A priestess doesn't sway from her path, she repeated with devotion. We shall journey together to the center of the earth to receive the message from the Great Mother herself.